Uh, Dear participants, good morning to all of you. I consider it a proud privilege and an honor to be speaking to all of you. I'll not take much time. After my address of about 5 to 7 minutes, I am open to questions from basically the industry members who are participating in today's seminar. Now, before going into these things proper, I just want to touch upon the security scenario prevailing in Indian subcontinent. Today, we are besotted with the problems. We have been surrounded by string of pearls. If you start from the Arabian Sea, we have a Gwadar port. Then I go further, CPEC, which is taking shape, which goes through our POK, and then onto Tibetan Plateau, into China, and then on the Southeast Asian countries. As far as the ocean is concerned, we have got a vast ocean, and one of our adversaries says that the Indian Ocean is no more India's ocean. Why it is said? Because Indian Ocean is very, very important. You all know that 67% of the trade passes through Malacca Strait, and that is huge trade. And the China is one of the major nation which is affected if something happens in the Indian Ocean. So be that as it may, so therefore it impinges on us to have a strong Navy and to support the strong Indian Air Force. And of course, as I say, string of pearls or adversaries which are there on the western side, a strong Indian Army. Now, having said that, why I'm giving this a brief introduction is that we require tremendous amounts of arms and ammunition and equipment to equip our Indian armed forces. Unfortunately, we have to, so far, depend on the foreign nations to equip us, so much so that today we are the largest importer of all the defense equipments in the entire world. It's a very dubious distinction, and we are not very proud of this fact. However, so far, when there is a bipolar world, we are depending on the Soviet bloc for our requirement. And there was a rupee-ruble trade. So therefore, we did not find much of a problem. And when we now move to the multipolar world, entire thing is based on the economy. And there are a number of players in the world who are supplying to us. But whole equipment, weapons, everything comes at a cost. And there are huge costs involved in this. The prior to independence, we had Ordnance Factory Board. Basically, the Britishers got it here. So they wanted to maintain their war efforts in the Burma side, also in the Middle East, because there was no technological know-how at that time in India. Only the major players, probably that time, were the steel makers, those days with Tatas. And after that, we had no technological base in the country as such. However, the things have changed now. In spite of having ordnance factories, about nearly 41 in number, we have got various DPSUs and we are depending on them so far. However, as the Honorable Home Minister said, that when we can send a mission to Mars, why can't we do so many things in India which are not so expensive and they are not technology effective? We have, at the moment, good technologies. In spite of that, 70% of our wherewithal comes from outside. I had gone around India after taking over my appointment. I was amazed to see that number of Indian companies are world class. In fact, I was astonished to know of a fact there are a number of spare parts, etc., which are made in India, supplied to very complicated machinery in the world. You must have known about the attack on Abbottabad, where the Bin Laden was killed. The helicopter which were used were of a very, very high complexity design. And the major parts of those helicopters, which are supposed to be the best in the world today, went from Hyderabad. And this is not a mere fiction, it's a fact. So that means the technology is available. Our industrial players are capable of doing what we want. Then why are we lacking? So possibly there are certain flaws in the system which we had earlier, and we did not have any confidence in our industry. So hopefully these have to be sorted out for the betterment. And why this fact I'm mentioning here, if you see in the earlier days, if you take your mind back to the history, the first invasion in our knowledge of India came from our land frontier of Punjab. Alexander the Great started his campaign from Middle East, and he defeated the Persian king Darius II, and then after that became the king of the world, was at Battle of Arbela. And there he used the machines, or steel machines, cutting machines on the field, and you'll surprise ladies and gentlemen to know that the steel went from India. Unfortunately, the same man came and tried to conquer India, but had to go back. So this fact again I wanted to mention because we have the capabilities and we must exploit these capabilities. Now, steps taken by the government, we have liberalized various systems. We do not have restricted policy. There has been tremendous amount of FDI in the defense sector. And the government is trying to create the level playing field for the private players by PPP. Also, the private players also encouraged by the government to get the technology from abroad, absorb that technology, do it for some time, and then completely make it in India. What we are looking at is to have a 70% of the Indian content by value, not by volume, by value, in our indigenized contents. And that is not very difficult. Our market is huge. I just want to say that in a year, the defense forces spends around 50 to 60,000 crore rupees on acquisitions of various arms, weapon, and equipment. With this, ladies and gentlemen, my time is over. I am ready to take any questions if you have so. If not, thank you for giving me the opportunity.